10 seconds. (6:30).
Good evening. I am calling the Monday, March 22nd, 2021 Planning Commission meeting to order. It is 6:30 p.m. Tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be held virtually via Zoom webinar and conference call due to the state of local emergency for the COVID-19 pandemic. Commission members and staff will participate in the meeting via telephone and video conference. As chair, I will be leading the Planning Commission meeting, and the public is welcome to participate when invited throughout the meeting. Members of the public may attend the meeting by joining in via online Zoom. If attendees experience audio problems, we suggest you leave the meeting and then rejoin. This has usually fixed the issue. Additional instructions on how to participate are posted online at www.burnsvillemn.gov in the public meeting calendar. As usual, tonight's meeting is available for viewing on BCTV and on the city's website. If you are unable to participate this evening and would like to submit testimony, I encourage you to email your comments to city staff or mail your comments directly to City Hall. You may participate in the meeting tonight online by going to https://zoom.us/join and typing in webinar ID 983-5827-3059. Once you are logged into the meeting, please use the chat feature to tell the moderator which item you wish to speak to. You may also call into the meeting at 651-372-8299 and enter meeting ID 983-5827-3059. For each public hearing, I will open up a time when callers may speak to that item and will give more instructions at that time. Your call will be muted until then. Please note there may be a slight delay due to the differences in technology. If speaking by phone, please mute your computer since there may be a delay. All right, so now we will go on to the first item of the agenda this evening, and that is adoption of the agenda. And I'm looking for any changes that the Planning Commission or staff may have to tonight's agenda. All right, seeing none, if we could have a motion to approve the agenda. Commissioner John.
I move that we accept the agenda as listed.
Thank you. And Commissioner Henderson.
I will second that motion.
All right, motion by Commissioner John, seconded by Commissioner Henderson. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Awad?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner John?
Aye.
Commissioner Roberts?
Aye.
Commissioner Timmerman?
Aye, and the motion carries. Next, we will look for any changes to the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was March 8th, 2021, and approve those minutes. Commissioners and staff, any changes to the meeting minutes from our last meeting?
No changes from staff.
Thank you, Ms. Garros. All right, seeing none from the commissioners either, Mr. Awad.
I move that we accept the meeting minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Awad, and Commissioner Henderson.
I will second that.
All right, moved by Commissioner Awad, seconded by Commissioner Henderson, and if we could once again have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Awad?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner John?
Aye.
Commissioner Roberts?
Aye.
Commissioner Timmerman?
Aye, and the motion carries. All right, on to our third agenda item, which is an application of Lakeview Industrial Park, LLC, for planned unit development amendment to remove the proof of parking requirements for the vacant lot at 1475 Riverwood Drive, located south of the Aldi grocery store and Riverwood Drive Retail Center. Ms. Garros, our city planner, will be providing an overview of the application. And Ms. Garros, the floor is yours.
Thank you, commissioners. to let you know ahead of time, the applicant, Tom Allen, may be at the meeting. We invited him to be there, so he may want to speak later on. And in addition, we did receive a phone call from Annie Young. I do not have her address, but she called last week and had some questions about the project, and particularly the access to the project with regard to the trail along Highway 13. So I will discuss that when we get to that point, but just wanted you to know that we did receive one person at least that contacted us regarding the public hearing tonight. So for this application, it is a planned unit development amendment. What the specific request is to remove a proof of parking requirement. And the subject site, along with other properties, have been through a number of planned unit developments. So this PUD actually, the most current dates back to 2005 when the Aldi building and site was approved. Next slide. The subject site and all the surrounding properties except to the east are all zoned B3, general commercial, and planned unit development, developed at different times, different PUD standards that apply to them, but for the most part, it's very similar zoning. The property to kind of the northeast is a multifamily townhome development, so that has an R3A high density residential zoning. The subject site that we're looking at is in the pink area shown on the screen. It's platted as Lot 3, Block 1, Connolly Farms, 4th edition, and the lot size is about 0.69 acres. Next slide. This is a pictometry showing the subject site again in the colored area. The site abuts Highway 13 to the south and then is completely surrounded by the Aldi property and the shopping center property. There are 3 lots within this part of the PUD, and this is the 3rd lot. Next slide, please. The oldest PUD, when this started in the development phase, dates back to 2000. The subject site is kind of where that blue dot is, and the area of the entire PUD originally in 2000 was over 21 acres. And it includes all the land basically between Super America to the west, which is now Speedy. And then it also heads to the north to the bank, and on the northeast corner is the electrical substation. So we're dealing with that part of the project site that's indicated in blue. Next slide. In 2001, there was a PUD amendment, and it was to develop this area of the subject site into a multi-tenant retail center, which is shown on the north part of that triangular property, if you will, and then also a restaurant site, different restaurant building. So 2 separate buildings on the site. This was approved back in 2001, but never constructed. Next slide, please. Then in 2005, the Aldi project came in, and that is on Lot 1 in the corner. And that particular PUD was approved back in 2005. Aldi came in, and there was the existing shopping center on Lot 2 was already built, and they decided not to extend it and build it further to the west. So the applicant was Aldi at the time. And what happened when Aldi was developed is that they had a need for additional parking based on what the parking schedule of the zoning ordinance was in that time. So the PUD allowed approval of the area that's circled in blue of 29 proof of parking spaces. And if you were to look at the site today, that entire lot 3 is vacant. So the proof of parking has never been required to be installed. The 2005 PUD for Aldi basically allowed them to install part of the parking lot, and then if the need arose during any time, they would need to have installed the rest of the 29 acres in that proof of parking area. So now it's been about 15 years since the project approval. That need has never come about, and the lot that we're talking about this evening remains a vacant lot. Next slide, please. And it is platted as Lot 3, Block 1, Connolly Farms. It is landlocked to the extent that access to the site will need to come through Lot 1 or Lot 2. There will not be access directly from Highway 13. Condition has been included that this is part of the PUD, and it really remains part of the concept of the overall PUD in this case. These are 3 lots that were meant to be developed together. They all have the use of joint parking, joint access, etc. So these 3 lots do work together in the PUD, even though the specific application we're looking at tonight is just for Lot 3. Next slide. And on this, the 2000 PUD required 184 parking stalls for both lots 1 and 2 because those were the developed lots at the time or going to be developed. And that was based on the ordinance at that time. Since then, we've revised the ordinance a couple of times, most currently last year. And some of the parking standards for different uses have been reduced, and that's the case for here. And the current ordinance parking schedule only requires between 109 minimum spaces and 113 maximum parking spaces. And that's considering both of those existing uses. So there are 158 existing parking stalls on the entire property now. And so that the existing parking already exceeds the current ordinance by 45 stalls. Then if you add the 29 proof of parking stalls on the subject site, basically we would be exceeding the ordinance standard by 74 parking stalls. So what the applicant is requesting is to remove basically 2 conditions from the 2005 PUD, which relate to the proof of parking, and they would like that proof of parking to be removed from over Lot 3 so that they can subsequently market the site for another development. Next slide. The specific request I did include in your background the entire PUD approvals, all of the conditions from the 2000 PUD. What is being requested specifically is to delete condition number 6, and that's again related to providing proof of parking, and then to modify condition number 7 to remove the proof of parking standard. So it would just read, future development of Lot 3 shall require a parking analysis and an amendment to the overall PUD. So that is the specific request. Next slide. In terms of PUD benefits, if the proof of parking is removed, if it's determined that it is not needed, then that will make Lot 3 available for a future commercial development. And then the existing parking on both lots currently exceeds the zoning ordinance requirements, and removing the proof of parking will actually bring the development more in line with our current parking standards. There are no parking deviations or PUD deviations associated with the application. Next slide. There was a parking study that was done by Bolton and Mink, and what they did is they looked at parking and circulation within the 3-lot area of Aldi and the surrounding roads on 2 different weekends, and they looked at 3 different times each weekend, trying to find out, what the parking is at the site. And what they found out is that even at the even at the highest use time for Aldi, the parking field was still 75% open. So they have, they do have enough adequate parking. The study did take into account that we do have COVID-19, so there may be less vehicles than, when the pandemic is over. And also there are 2 open tenants in the strip center. However, the parking standards that I just had talked about, and those numbers are based on full occupancy of both. And there is still ample parking that was found by the parking study without constructing the proof of parking stalls. Next slide. We also contacted and had the police department research records from January of 2020 to March 8th of 2021, just to see if there have been issues related to illegal parking or parking on the street, those types of things. They did note that there have been a couple of issues where the police department was called out. There are no specific entries or documentation as to, what the primary issues were. But basically they were calls either from a tow truck or an owner of a vehicle, and there was some disagreement between them. So the police did go out and help to resolve those. The police really do not get involved that much in terms of private parking lots. They did indicate that most of the businesses in the area do have consultants or businesses online to tow vehicles if they become a problem. In this case for Aldi, Aldi is participating in this application. So they have indicated that they do not have a need for those 29 parking stalls. And I think the findings from the police also indicate that that's the case. Next slide. The recommendation from staff is to approve the PUD amendment as requested. We have 3 conditions. Number 1 is just to note, and this is something recommended by the city attorney, that the developer owner has applied for these changes and they consent and agree to the removal of condition 6 and modification of condition 7. And then number 2, the standard that conditions of previously approved PUDs remain in full force and effect with the exception of the proof of parking on this lot. And then number 3 is what I had discussed earlier. Access to the subject sites will be from the shared parking lots on lots 1 and 2, block 1 of Conley Farms Edition. And with that, I can stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Garros. Planning commissioners, I'll go to you first before I open up the public hearing, and we can cycle back if you want to hold your questions, but I'll just check in. It looks like Commissioner Awad may have a question.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Garros, for a great presentation. It seems pretty straightforward. I was just curious, what can go on a 0.69 acre lot? Is that like a small, like potentially a small restaurant, the size for a small restaurant or coffee shop, or?
The zoning is B3, our general business. So there are a whole host of things that could potentially locate there. However, it is going to be difficult because of the shape of the lot, being that triangular shape, and then also the size. Usually for a restaurant, I believe the ordinance has got a 20,000 square foot lot area requirement, but we found that that's kind of small, depending on if it's like a Caribou drive-through type of thing. This would work fine. If it's another fast food, it may work fine. They do have a lot of stacking ability, on the existing lots, and we'll have to wait to see what actually comes in. I'm sure that they are going to need some deviations for setbacks and things just because of the odd shape of the site.
Yeah, thank you. I just kind of, again, trying to get a sense for what the possibilities might be. But very exciting.
All right, thank you. All right, I don't see any other comments or questions at this time, so I will open the public hearing. And at this time, if there are any members of the public on Zoom who wish to speak, please indicate that you have questions or comments, and the moderator will unmute you. If there are any telephone callers who wish to speak at this time, please press *9 on your phone to raise your hand to indicate you wish to speak. And then you may press *6 to unmute yourself. While we wait, I will also note that I opened the public hearing at 6:48 p.m. I know we have a couple people at least listening in, so I want to give it just a moment in case they do want to address the commission. All right, it doesn't look like there are any public comments at this time, so I will close the public hearing at 6:49 p.m. and open it back up to the commissioners for any additional questions or comments on this particular project.
Commissioners, I forgot to include the information that we received from Annie Young. What that question was, she is a blind person, a resident of the city, and her question and issues kind of retain to the access to Riverwood Drive. I don't know if we can go back and show the aerial photo again. Thank you, that'll work. On the lower left-hand side, you can see that when you're heading southbound on Highway 13, there is not an off-ramp, if you will, or a typical turn lane. So her concern was just for pedestrians, bikers, etc., using the trail, and with intensification of uses out here, potentially in the future, she wanted to make sure that someone takes a look at just that area where vehicles are coming off right onto Riverwood Drive and the trail. She also works with MnDOT on making intersections safer for disabled people. And she had worked actually with the Cliff Road Highway 13 intersection. So that was her call. We did put her through to the city engineer, and they will be working with Miss Young and take a look at that site. It is MnDOT right of way, so MnDOT would be the lead agency, but we just wanted it to be duly noted for the record that she did call and voice the concern, and is talking with city staff, and we'll be working on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garros. Looking at the picture on the screen now, I can definitely see the concern there. So I appreciate that city staff is going to be taking a closer look at that. Ms. Young, thank you so much for contacting the city to take a closer look at that. I would think that with any additional development of that site, it certainly would be reviewed as well. So thank you, Ms. Garros, for that. Commissioner John.
There we go. Thank you, Chair. I was just curious on that myself, looking at the access to this location. It's very limited, and that would limit what could go in that site. It almost sounds like there's something moving if they're looking to change up the parking and things like that. Do we know of anything that would be going in at this point, or is that still too far out of the works? And if so, what kind of access? We wouldn't be changing the access to Highway 13, I'm assuming. It would all have to come through Riverwood via Parkwood or 12th Avenue there, correct?
Yes, that's correct. This aerial photo doesn't go far enough. There is a signalized intersection at Parkwood and 13, a little bit to the southwest. But you're right, this is, vehicles are coming off here southbound. You can't get to this location crossing Highway 13 from northbound. You have to go around to one of the lighted intersections, but that will definitely be a consideration, and they will need to come through Riverwood Drive, either through the existing access there on the west side or the north side. So that is going to be a consideration, and that's one of the reasons that we kept the condition for a traffic study for development of this site as a continuing condition with this property. The applicant has not advised us that they have someone in mind for purchasing the property, just that they want to be able to sell it, and the proof of parking restricts it so that there's not much anyone could do with it if that proof of parking remained on the site. So we did do an analysis, took a look at it, and from a staff standpoint, it looks like there is adequate parking available for Aldi and the shopping center, and that the proof of parking is not needed on this particular property.
Thank you. That's really all that's important anyway in this consideration. So appreciate the help.
Ms. Garros, I have a bit of a tangent. So my understanding is that 7-Eleven purchased all of these speedways, and I don't know if that's in Minnesota or nationwide, and I know that Burnsville has, I believe, 3 gas stations that once were Super America, then transitioned to Speedway. I'm curious, do we know if there's any movement on any of those stations for either rebranding, redevelopment, and is that something that could come into play here with the Speedway that currently sits adjacent to the southwest?
Commissioners, that is possible. I don't have any information, or we have not received any information. However, something to note is that there used to be 7-Elevens here years ago, and then they left, and then we had SA come in and Holiday. So kind of what goes around comes around, I guess. But we do not have any information that that's the case at this point.
All right, that was a little bit of personal curiosity too, just living near a different Speedway in Burnsville. All right, thank you. Commissioner John.
I'm sorry, I believe my hand was still raised from before. I don't have anything else.
I was hoping you would make a motion.
Well, I can make a motion since you pulled me up here.
All right, great.
All right. I move that we, if I can get this big enough
I'm
here.
going to interrupt you and close the public hearing if I hadn't. I think I did, but just in case I hadn't, I'll close or reclose at 6:56 and then go back to you, Commissioner John.
Okay. I recommend that City Council approves the PUD amendment to remove proof of parking requirements over Lot 3, Block 1, Conley Farms, 4th edition, subject to the following 3 conditions as listed on our handouts.
Thank you, Commissioner John. Commissioner Awad.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner John, seconded by Commissioner Awad. And if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Awad,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner John,
Aye.
Commissioner Roberts,
Aye.
Commissioner Timmerman.
Aye. All right, and the motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Garros, for that. And we will move on to agenda item number 4, which is an application of the City of Burnsville for a comprehensive plan amendment to Chapter 2, Future Land Use Guide Plan of the 2040 Comprehensive Plan to incorporate text changes related to residential density. And City Planner Sarah Madden will be presenting an overview of this item this evening. Ms. Madden.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. So to give some overview on this type of application in advance, there's going to be a lot of slides later on in my presentation that are just text. And so just to give kind of a brief overview before we get into some of those big walls of text, the application before you was prompted by a previous application that was heard by the Commission this year. Or at the end of 2020, I believe, for the CAMI second edition, which was a plat and a plan unit development amendment and a comprehensive plan amendment for a 62-unit multifamily building in the high density, which was a commercial and was changed into a high density residential zoning district. That proposal received a few deviations, one of which was for density. This was because in the city code, we do have a tool through the plan unit development where the city can grant both deviations or density deviations specifically for a proposal. When we, as a staff, submitted this to the Metropolitan Council for their review, they made the comment that yes, the city does have that flexible language built into their zoning code, but our comprehensive plan in our future land use chapter, while it talks about increased densities, does not actually have a sentence or language that provides that same flexibility. So because of that, we had several staff members having some conversation with Metropolitan Council staff and talking about the goals in Burnsville's comprehensive plan, the density charts within our comprehensive plan, and kind of how what we have put forth in our charts and in our goals mathematically are not as compatible with some of our peer competitor cities and neighboring cities. So because of that, staff moved forward and did a quick evaluation of some of the recent projects that are for specifically multifamily development, whether that's in high density residential, mixed use, the transit-oriented development districts, previously heart of the city zoning district, and just to look and see where those stacked up and what kind of requests we also get from our phone calls from market inquiries when properties go up for sale, or maybe they're inquiring about redevelopment of a parcel and they let us know what type of like unit count they're looking at for that size of a parcel. So kind of putting all of that together, staff is moving forward with this as a minor text amendment. It is considered minor to the comprehensive plan future land use chapter. There are changes proposed specifically to the density charts that do give a bump in our high density residential, medium density residential, and mixed use comp plan designations, as well as some references that would allow an increase based on meeting goals of the comprehensive plan or city policies and visions, similar to how staff will permit a density deviation based on other benefits through a PUD process. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So these are some of the applications, the formal applications for development that were received by the city over the last couple of years. As you can see in the majority of these applications, density increases through the PUD process were granted or requested for these developments. The three with the asterisk next to the yes are all three in the heart of the city transit-oriented development area. And with new transit-oriented development densities, those densities that requested actually would have been within the range. While they were an increase in heart of the city in the TOD district, they are meeting and within that range and that standard. So the language proposed is to increase in the chart for medium density, high density mix, which would affect in the zoning code, medium density, high density mix, and TOD. TOD is kind of finalized with it going up to 80 units per acre, but this section in the comprehensive plan is being amended to reflect that, along with these kind of new changes that were prompted by some of the applications that received by city staff. Next slide, please. So here's where we get into some of the text portion. These are quick screen grabs of two charts in the future land use guide plan chapter of the comprehensive plan. So heart of the city guiding, switching to transit-oriented development up to 80 units per acre, and kind of removing some of those HOC references. In the second table, you're seeing the same thing for medium density and high density residential. So what has changed here is in the mixed use district, the maximum 30 units per acre has been increased to 50 units per acre. The previous heart of the city was up to 60 units per acre. So what we're trying to do is blend some of these zones that are less dense than the transit-oriented development area and blend them as they all kind of bump their way up. But not as high, because obviously our transit-oriented development area and the heart of the city area is that really dense focus area, and it's different from other areas in their development patterns within the city of Burnsville. So you will see the high density residential maximum switching from 20 units per acre to 30 units per acre, which was the former maximum of the mix guide plan change and zoning district. The medium density residential was also given a small bump from 12 to 18 units per acre as a way to blend it into the former high density residential. But all of those minimums are staying the same. Next slide, please. Can we move to the, oh, thank you. So the specific little bitty text words here are maybe not necessarily kind of what your eye is going to be drawn to here, but what I wanted to show is that while we are referencing that we are amending the entirety of the future land use chapter, really what we're trying to do here is target changes that are specific to where there are references to the units per acre density maximums, and where the city can input that sentence that says that we can consider increasing that maximum density by a maximum of 20% if a development satisfies those community visions and specific housing goals. And those goals, they are referenced in various points within the comprehensive land use plan for our goals for our vision for neighborhoods and housing. It's a little bit of a different way of interpreting goals and policies than the plan unit development process, where that negotiated zoning district is talked through with staff and a developer based on maybe building materials or landscaping materials, or what the setback is, what amenities are involved in the project. So it's going to be a different type of discussion when these types of requests come through, but it does give staff the ability to present these items to the Metropolitan Council and for them to be able to review what is proposed. The items in blue text are where staff is adjusting some of the language that references the former HOC1 and HOC2 zoning districts, which are now called TOD in the zoning district, although still heart of the city within our comprehensive plan as a focus area. Next slide, please. This here will be just the recommendation that, of course, we are recommending approval of the text changes that we have put together that are included as an attachment in your background report. I know that this is a lot. It's about a 70 or so page chapter as part of our comprehensive plan, but the changes themselves are considered minor, and through conversations with Metropolitan Council staff, they've indicated that the City of Burnsville does not need to provide additional modeling forecasts for our utilities, as there are not any known or definite developments that are substantial for these forecasts. It's considered a minor amendment by the Metropolitan Council staff and by the city staff that have prepared this this evening. The goal is to modify this language so that our comprehensive plan will give us the same type of flexibility and tools as our zoning ordinance, but also so that these areas reflect the development patterns in Burnsville that we're seeing in market trends across the country, but particularly here in the Twin Cities with residential development. So this flexible language will help the city as we bring things forward to the Metropolitan Council for them to review us based on our communities. So with that, so staff, as I said, is recommending approval. This is a public hearing. I have received a few questions and comments on the proposed application. Typically what it has been residents just asking me to clarify what the changes are and what it means. And so I do not know if there's anyone that may necessarily like to speak tonight, but it will be a public hearing and I'm available for questions.
Great, thank you, Ms. Madden. I will let the planning commissioners think about their questions for a minute if they have any. I just wanted to clarify, you said that this is considered a minor amendment. Does that mean that the Met Council does not need to approve this after the City Council does, or does it still go to them for approval?
Thanks, that's a great question. So it will still go to the Metropolitan Council for approval. The classification as a minor amendment helped with the timing of the application for staff perspective. Typically with a comprehensive plan amendment, there's a neighboring jurisdiction notification period where the city puts together a packet of information to share with our neighboring, all government jurisdictions, school districts, other governing bodies, cities, watershed districts, and they can comment on our applications, and all of that information goes to the Metropolitan Council as part of their review. They need to see what we received as comments from our peers. Because this is a minor amendment and there's no specific property involved, we were able to skip that notification period and just present the changes, let the Metropolitan Council know that the application is coming, and then I'll be able to, as the staff member leading this project, work with Metropolitan Council staff directly for them to review this amendment.
Okay, great. Thank you for the clarification. Commissioner John.
Thank you, Chair. My question is just a clarification. So currently we're getting calls for larger unit developments than what we currently can allow in these districts? Is that was the need for the change?
Yes, that's a great question. So it's a combination of the projects that we have reviewed over the last 2 years, a number of them being granted these density increases over what's allowed. And also that with the calls that staff fields and the inquiries we get about properties that are available for development, well, I don't have like a mathematical way that I've been keeping track of that, but generally, yes, the unit counts that we're being quoted are higher than what we allow.
Okay. So larger buildings, that is what we're looking for, or just to stay par with the rest of the cities in the area, basically, is what we're looking at, correct?
Yes, that is.
With the Joneses. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner John. I don't see any other immediate questions here, so I am going to open the public hearing. If there are any other, if there are any members of the public on the Zoom meeting who wish to speak, please indicate so and the moderator will unmute you. If there are any callers into the Zoom meeting, you can press *9 to indicate you wish to speak and *6 to unmute yourself. All right, so I was just waiting for the clock to tick 1 minute so I could say that the public hearing was opened at 7:10 and I am closing it at 7:11 as there are no members of the public wishing to speak to this item. Commissioners, any additional comments or concerns regarding this item, or if you would be so bold to make a motion? Commissioner Roberts, I think I know what you might do.
No, you don't. Actually, I want to say there was a lot of material on this. That was a very nice job, a good presentation. There's more behind the scenes, it seems like, than what's going on. To me, it looked like you're getting ready for Burnsville to boom. And I like the aggressiveness on it and like the way the growth is looking and the way things are building up. It's kind of exciting. So I think this is a good idea. And I think we're doing the work early to prepare for what's about to come. So nice job. That was a very nice job.
Great comment, Commissioner Roberts. Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve. Commissioner Henderson.
So I will make a motion that staff recommends, or that we recommend, the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council approval of the application for a comprehensive plan amendment to Chapter 2 Future Land Use Guide Plan of the 2040 Comprehensive Plan to incorporate text changes related to residential density as presented in the red-lined staff memo.
Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. And Commissioner Watt.
I will second the motion.
Very good. Moved by Commissioner Henderson, seconded by Commissioner Awad. And if we could have a roll call vote, I would appreciate it.
Commissioner Awad,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner John,
Aye.
Commissioner Roberts,
Aye.
Commissioner Timmerman.
Aye. And the motion carries. All right, that brings us to our agenda item number 5, updates. Planning commissioners or staff, do you have any updates for the commission tonight?
Yes, I have a couple, but I'll go through pretty quickly. So your next Planning Commission meeting is Monday, April 12th. So far, it looks like we're going to have 3 items on that agenda, 2 of which will be public hearings. One of them is related to the mixed use changes that I gave a brief update on back in January. The other is related to a new veterinary clinic use in a planned unit development. The third item is still possibly tentative. We are hoping, though, that this will be the kickoff to our city code update item so that we can all get some more information and learn about what we're going to be focusing on the next year. Also related to my mixed use changes, where the city is proposing a number of commercial centers around the city to be rezoned or re-guided first to mixed use. There is a neighborhood public virtual meeting this Wednesday evening. You can find more information about that at the City of Burnsville website. Right now, we're targeting the property owners specifically that are involved, but just so you know, there's some behind the scenes work going on related to some of those city policies and initiatives. Also, a small update. Today was the first day of our new community development assistant, Kevin Trushinsky. Some of you may know that the previous community development assistant, Beth Weber, was promoted to economic development specialist back in January, and we've been doing recruitment for that position, and it was filled, and his first day was today. So we're excited for a full staff again. So, and Deb, I'll turn it over to you if you have any updates at all.
Sure, just a couple, just to let the public know that the city council meeting, we have 5 Mondays this month. So instead of the city council meeting being next week for these applications that we heard, it will actually be April 6th, and the city council meeting starts at 5:30. And the other thing, just for the planning commissioners, is that the March 30th Urban Land Institute work session with the city council is coming up, and everyone is invited to that. And we should be receiving information, signups and whatnot for you shortly. And other than that, that's what I have. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Ms. Garros and Ms. Madden. And just a quick update, I did bring the Planning Commission work plan to the City Council last Tuesday, and they approved it. Mayor Couts also wanted to acknowledge the Planning Commission on her behalf, as well as the behalf of the City Council, for the work that the Planning Commission does. And I wanted to thank Commissioner John for filling in at our last meeting as chair. I know you guys had a conversation and discussion on our new City Council liaison, who is Councilmember Schultz. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think what the consensus was to kind of hold off until we had something. She did comment at City Council last week that she might like to get together. She's as excited about the ordinance revamp as I am, and I keep speaking for the Planning Commission when I say that we are excited about it. So I was thinking maybe we could invite her either, one of the first couple weeks that we are starting to take a look at that. So I'm not proposing any dates right now, since we don't quite know when we'll be taking that on, but maybe that would be a good time to do introductions, and maybe by then we'll even be back in the chambers. So I just wanted to mention that. And that is all I have. Commissioner John.
Is she aware she has to buy us dinner?
I haven't mentioned it, but I think the city attorney might be objectionable.
Oh,
to that.
That's right.
Yeah, well,
okay.
Commissioner Roberts.
Good, nice. Yeah, that'll be nice to have her on board. If there really is nothing left, I know that we need a move for adjournment, so that's what I'll do.
Thank you, Commissioner Roberts, and I will go back quickly to Ms. Madden.
Thank you. Sorry, I had remembered while you were speaking about possibly coming back into City Hall. So I did poll you guys within the last week about some preferences about meeting types. It does look like we are heading back towards a hybrid virtual and in-person meeting. We don't have a specific date in mind for that yet, but it does look like Planning Commission meetings relatively shortly will be back in that format as we were doing late summer of last year. So that would be coming. As we're meeting with our Planning Commission liaison at the City Council, so Regina is the lead. Regina Dean is the lead on this project for the city code update. So I will bring forth that idea to her and see when she would like to pencil something like that in, because that's a great idea.
Great, thank you.
And that's all.
All right, that is promising. We do have a motion to adjourn. I see Commissioner Awad.
I will second Commissioner Roberts' motion.
Thank you, thank you. Commissioner Roberts moves, Commissioner Wad seconds. We could have a roll call to adjourn.
Commissioner Wad,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner John,
Aye.
Commissioner Roberts,
Aye.
Commissioner Timmerman.
Aye. Thank you so much. And the motion carries. We are adjourned.